Drivers, start your engines!
This is MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse and Hercules Tires. One full hour of news, interviews, and opinion about the past weekend's racing action.
Pace car is up.
Now here are your hosts, Woody Kane and Joey Meyer.
Green flag, green flag.
Welcome to another edition of Winged Nation here on Motor Racing Network after the events at Martinsville, the STP 500 on Sunday. Kyle Busch won. He also won the Camping World Truck Series race on Saturday. First time anyone has swept both races at Martinsville. First time Kyle Busch has gotten a victory, a grandfather clock at Martinsville. He takes home 2. I'm joined by 2 Spotter, Joey Meyer on Twitter, at 2 Spotter. Joey, a big weekend at Martinsville. All kinds of action on the track, and I know you have not been much of a fan of the truck race at Martinsville, but for sheer excitement, there was a lot going on this weekend, a lot to watch.
You know, we all grew up around racetracks around the country. It's the epitome of every racetrack we've ever grown up with. Short track racing, beating and banging, a lot of acceleration, heavy braking, and usually somebody's upset at the end of the event.
And as you say, that usually means the racing was pretty good. Not as many people upset at the end of the Cup race as there were at the end of the truck race. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But we need to mention Outback is one of our sponsors, Outback Steakhouse. And since Kevin Harvick didn't get that top 10 finish, we need to make sure that we mention that even though you can't get the Bloomin' Onion this time, Kevin Harvick missed a top 10 finish, so you won't get the free Bloomin' Onion today, but he'll give it a try again next weekend. Outback Steakhouse, done right. And since it is the lunch hour, if you want to head over there and check out some of those lunch combos, they are fantastic. I know you always like the kids menu.
The Joey menu.
The
Got
Joey
my own
menu.
menu. I appreciate it. You know, they come on the show and they said, hey, we're going to give you your own menu. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
You're still clinging to thinking that they named it after you.
What does it say?
It says Joey menu.
All right.
All right. Check it out at Outback Steakhouse. We've got a lot to talk about on the program today. We mentioned a few weeks ago about the incident involving Chris Osborne, crazy spotter for Matt Kenseth. He made his return to the track at Martinsville this weekend. He's going to be on the program a little bit later on to tell us about his ordeal and how things went over the weekend as well. And A.J. Allmendinger, a spectacular run on Sunday, a second-place finish for him. That team moving in the right direction after a lot of changes that they made along the way. Anytime you'd like to comment, you can do so on our new fan forum hotline, 844-4-ASK-MRN. That's not just for Motorsports Monday. Any of the shows, anything you'd like to know or comment on in the world of racing, we'll take those there as well. And if you want to play along with us on Twitter, mine is at WY Kane. His is at 2Spotter, the number 2. You can use at MRN Radio as well. Just use that hashtag AskMRN so we can find your question, and you can get all this on the free MRN app. It's available at the iTunes Store and at Google Play. So, moving along through the weekend, we saw a lot of stuff that made us kind of go, We saw a lot of stuff that made us think, yeah, that's pretty right. What was your overriding impression coming out of Martinsville?
Those darn Truck Series regulars ruined the Cup Series.
Wait, what?
Goes guys running the Truck Series. They come over in a Cup car and run. They would lead all the laps, win the race. Oh.
I thought you were never going to talk about this stuff again.
No,
That's what you told
I'm
me.
just going in the other direction.
Oh, you're trying to switch it around and reverse it.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
No, it's a fantastic weekend. Kyle Busch grabbed a hold of Martinsville and gave it a stranglehold and was able to take home, 2 clocks, which, when you think about it, has been going on for 20, 30 years as the trophy at Martinsville. It's one of those unique places that when you go, you're prideful in trying to get that trophy. We all go to these different race facilities, and they give us really different and cool trophies. Some have a lot of meaning, some don't. Martinsville is one of those historic places that when you walk into somebody's garage, shop, house, and you see it, you know exactly what it means.
Absolutely. Anyway, we had the race for you on Motor Racing Network, and when we have the races, we'll replay those for you early Monday morning at 7 a.m. and immediately following Motorsports Monday here. So any of them, anytime that the Cup race is on Motor Racing Network, you can hear it right here immediately following our program. Speaking of that, here's what the last lap at Martinsville sounded like in the Cup race when Kyle Busch gets that clock.
Kyle Busch across the line. One more trip around the paperclip.
It's looking like a 2-clock weekend for the driver of the M&M's Toyota. Final time off turn number 2. 3 car lengths of advantage. It's all Kyle Busch on the backstretch.
Another dominating performance for Kyle Busch. He brings that M&M's Toyota off turn number 4 across the stripe and under the checkered flag, and Kyle Busch has won the STP 500, winning over A.J. Allmendinger, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, and Brad Keselowski. Get out the brooms. He has swept the weekend yet again.
Kyle Busch goes to victory lane not just once but twice at Martinsville, and he has mentioned in the past that that hasn't been his best track. As we noted, he has not won there in any of NASCAR's top 3 touring divisions, the national touring divisions, but he mentioned that he and the rest of the Gibbs Racing contingent have been relying on a lot of information from Denny Hamlin to help them get better. Ironically, Denny wheel hops and gets into the wall.
Well, one of the things about Martinsville is one of those driver tracks. When you go to Martinsville and you set your car up for a particular way for you driving it, a lot of it has to do with your technique, not the way your teammates drive. It's a driver's track. We don't rely a lot on aero advantages that some teams have come up with. So when you hop in your car, it's essentially you against the track, and you can either do it or you can't. For years, we saw Dale Jr. go there and wreck everything but the pace car, which they reference in Days of Thunder for a number of times.
Yeah.
But then he got it. And guys that run good there, they click and they see a performance increase immediately. Brad Keselowski in the 2-car with Paul Wolfe, they've gone there. They have made a gigantic step in the last couple of years with several top 5 finishes. They need to take one more small step to be able to get their victory lane. Kyle, with the help of Denny, took that next step.
Wait, what show are we on?
Motorsports.
Okay,
Monday.
All right, let's make sure we got that straight here as we go along. I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear because this is Motorsports Monday. It is Monday.
That'll be a bloop. That's in the blooper reels.
That's right. We'll stick with that along
see
the
how
way.
Many, see how many listeners actually caught us at the
well,
beginning of this show. What was the name of the show? Go back and listen.
Well, clearly the host doesn't know. So anyway. But listen, one of the things that Kyle mentioned in his weekend, and one of the things that we noticed was that restarts were very critical. Here's what he had to say about that.
You know, something I developed as a kid back at the Bull Ring in Vegas, working on restarts with my dad, working on them in Legends cars, modifieds, late models, everything, and knowing that that's an important part of the game. You know, it's not just racing, it's not just running around there and being with all the competitors, it's a matter of every single element. And so it just kind of came to us. I've obviously got some really good guys at the shop, too, that give us some good transmission ratios that work well and the things that we can do there in order to make sure that we do have those good restarts. So, I got really good launches today, and, even again there on the last one seemed to be pretty.
One of the cool things that I notice at Martinsville, and we don't see it really anywhere else, at least not so predominantly, is at Martinsville coming off pit road after pit stops, guys will jam on brakes to make sure they can get in the lane that they want for that restart at Martinsville. And it kind of leads at one point along the way, I think it was involving Kyle Larson may have been one of them, a couple of other guys, trying to jam on brakes to make sure they were in the proper spot. Tell me what we're trying to achieve there.
Okay, the bottom lane on restarts is a definitive advantage. Trying to get from the outside lane into the bottom lane takes a lot of guts, a lot of glory sometimes, not so much. You dive in front of somebody. It's like the guy on your street, on your interstate that changes lanes with no turn signal, and all of a sudden you find yourself jamming on your brakes. Mm-hmm. The difference in a race car is that when you head off into the corner at Martinsville, you plan on stopping at the very last minute of referencing the car in front of you. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have a car suddenly jump in front of you, you can't stop anymore because you're already at your limit.
You can only stop as much as you can stop.
That's it. And you're already at your limit. And so what happens is you end up getting into that guy in front of you. The guy behind you gets in front of you and gets into you, and you cause this accordion effect throughout the field. So we leave pit road. It's part of the spotter's job is we're trying to count. Honestly, we're 1, 2, 3. You're trying to find out where you can be an odd number car leaving pit road so that you line up on the inside lane for the restart. That works really good, specifically in the first 5 or 6. But once you start trying to go back 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, leaving pit road, it's very, very difficult because all it takes is for that guy in 6th spot leaving pit road to jam on his brakes,
and then
the guy back in 12th, he's the one that's paying the price.
Yeah, you guys had a little ding on the front end as well of the Miller Lite Ford. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But we like to bring you, when we get an opportunity, what we call a video of the week here, something cool that happened over the weekend. And one of them that has blown up on social media was Kyle Busch. After the victory, he's leaving the racetrack, pulls up beside a fan. He sees that she's wearing his hat. Samantha's in the car with him and tells him to start talking to her. Here's how that happened. We'll be back with more after this.
Do it. Roll down your window. Maybe she can't see.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's freaking good!
How are you?
I freaking love y'all.
Give me your hat.
I love y'all. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm sorry. Oh my god!
Thank
you.
you.
Are freaking awesome.
Good to see you guys. Thanks.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy you won.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
MRN On Demand. Listen or watch when you want and where you want. Find all of MRN's original programs in the Media Center at MRN.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Race Day Nation on iHeartRadio. Find NASCAR Live, Motorsports Monday, Winged Nation, NASCAR Coast to Coast, Pod Tracks, Sling and Dirt, The Inside Line, and The Straight Line. Motorsports programs when you want, where you want. MRN On Demand.
Motor Racing Network has always been your source for motorsports coverage when you couldn't be at the track. Now, never miss another minute of our breathtaking coverage with the MRN app, available on your iPhone or Android device. This free app delivers all the latest news, locates nearby MRN stations, streams your favorite programs, and is your home for live Sprint Cup practice and qualifying action. Search MRN in the App Store or on Google Play. It's the Motor Racing Network at your fingertips, and it's available for free right now.
I'm Matt Kenseth, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
There you hear Matt Kenseth welcoming us back here on Motorsports Monday. Every Monday, me and Two Spotter will break down the weekend's races, talk to some interesting guests, and look ahead for what's coming up in the world of NASCAR. And the man who spots for Matt Kenseth joins us on the guest line now. Chris Osborne made his return to the track at Martinsville. Crazy Spotter on Twitter. Chris, welcome back to the program, man. I know it's a relief to get back up on that roof and get back to some sense of normalcy.
Yes, it was. I appreciate you guys having me on. It was a good weekend. It was a much anticipated weekend, and it was a little chilly and a whole lot breezy all weekend long. But man, the weather didn't cut into the excitement of me being back on the roof. That's for sure.
All right, so we welcome you back on the roof, but why were you gone? Explain to everybody and our listeners exactly what happened at the end of last year.
Well, Joey, December 17th, my family and I were involved in an auto accident, and took us. I was in the hospital for about 6 days. Austin was in there for 2, and Melissa was the most critically injured, and she was in Baptist Hospital in Winston-Salem for 4 weeks exactly. And we've just been going through the recovery mode and trying to heal up and get better and get back on our feet, and going through a lot of physical therapy for myself and for Melissa. Fortunately, I'm done with mine now, but Melissa is still in the latter stages of hers. She finished up her home therapy about 2.5 weeks ago, and now has moved into some outpatient therapy, which is a good thing, because that means that now she's finally out of the wheelchair and up on her feet and mobile and able to move around. But she still has a long way to go. A lot of her body still needs attention and needs some work to get it back to 85 or 90%, which is probably going to be about the max that she's going to get out of it. Hoping for more, that's for sure. But in all reality, that's probably what she'll get back. And if she's able to accomplish that goal, I think she'll be satisfied with it.
Well, under the circumstances, I know it could have been a whole lot worse, and good to see that all you guys are on the road to recovery. But you still got, what, screws in your leg and crutches and that whole ball of wax for a while now?
Yeah, I'll have the plates and the screws in my leg from now on. They won't come out. I think if they take those out, they may as well take away the bottom part of my right leg because that's pretty much what's holding it all together. It's healing up well. There were so many fractures. My tibia just exploded and blew out the shin of my leg during the accident. It broke my fibula, and it broke all the bones and pieces in there, just fractures from the kneecap down to just above the ankle. And it's a nasty mess in there, but broke my kneecap all the way across the bottom of my kneecap, and then it broke it up into the ball and the socket as well. But we had to go back to the doctor on April 26th to get some x-rays made, and hopefully everything's still healing up and mending in the right direction. And I'm walking around with a cane now. I can get around without one for a short period of time or in a small area, but when I have to travel and go like this weekend to Martinsville, and there's numerous steps to climb and things like that, and after the race yesterday and on Saturday, having to walk up the road to the top of the hill to the car was a trek. So I still need a little bit of assistance on a long distance journey, but hopefully here within a 2 or 3 week time span, I'll be able to get rid of that and just be back on my 2 feet again.
Christopher, it's great to have you back. We realize when NASCAR talks about being a family sport, when things are good, we don't really see the strength of the family. But as when things happen bad, I think the strength of this entire NASCAR family really assisted you and your family as well as your own family. It was really honor to be associated with having you back on the roof. Your day didn't go as planned, but before we talk about the race, my one question that I get asked all the time, where did Crazy come from? Where did the actual name come from?
Well, it goes way back into my latter teenage years, to be honest with you, Joey. I was always a guy growing up that always liked to have a lot of fun. I was, the one that always tried to get everybody in a good mood and always have fun and enjoy each day. And when I got out of high school and started driving a truck, all the truck drivers have to have a CB handle. That's just the way of the trucking industry. And so I was trying to come up with a good CB handle for myself with some of my buddies, and one of them said, "Man," he said, "you just crazy." He said, "You plumb crazy." He said, all the time. He said, that needs to be it. So we started out with Plum Crazy. That was my CB handle and still is to this day. But the majority of the people just call me Crazy now. And, there may be another story or two along the way that may pertain to that. But we probably should just touch on that at a little later date.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit of racing now. You guys on Sunday ran up front pretty much all day long, but right before you came on, Joey and I were talking about guys checking up, coming off on pit road to try and get the position they want for restarts. You guys got caught on that outside lane, and, man, unless somebody does you a favor, you can go to the back in a hurry in that situation. Is that kind of what happened on that last restart with you guys?
Yeah, that was exactly what had happened. We'd been working together with the 18, kind of like Brad and Joey did there the last race, and just trying to be teammates and help one another out and make it as easy on the other as we possibly could. And we stayed out, and Joey probably has the facts. I just think there were approximately 9 cars that stayed out on the old tires during that last pit stop. And we were hung on the outside, and the 18 decided with that few laps to go that they didn't want to take a chance on something happening, so they wanted to just race for it. And, that's understandable. Granted, sitting on my side of the fence, we would have loved to have played the teammate game one more time. to get us in line 1 and 2 and then see what happens. But, when you get down to the end of the race with 11 laps to go, you understand their side of the story as well. So it was just unfortunate we got hung on the outside. Never was an opportunity. I tried to squeeze him down 2 different times, and, that door just closed really quickly. It seemed like Matt rolled down into the corner anticipating the hole to still be there when he got down in the corner. And especially when we got back in the mix with the guys that had the pressure tires, they just had so much roll speed on entry to the center with those fresh tires that the gaps just closed up in a hurry. And unfortunate that we weren't able to get down in there and came home with a 15th place finish. It was a great day overall. We ran well, just kind of hung out to dry there at the end.
Yeah, one of the things as going back to Martinsville, it is our shortest track of the year. It's a half mile. It's our slowest track of the year as well. How many laps on Friday for practice or even Saturday for the truck race or possibly Sunday? How many laps back on the roof did it take you to feel like you had never missed a lap?
I'll be honest with you, Joey. I felt like that once I put the headset on and got on, we had truck practice first thing on Friday. That was the first thing on the racetrack. And once I put my headset and all back on and Daniel rolled out for his first lap of practice, I felt like that I had stayed in tune with everything from Daytona until Friday, and I think I've done it long enough that it should come natural to me, and I felt like it did. First lap on the racetrack with Daniel, I felt like I was right back in sync, and when we had cup practice, I was I definitely felt in tune and 100% and 100% confident in myself and ready to go. So I really don't feel like that I had a setback in that department, fortunately. So the comfort level was still there from the first lap on the racetrack.
Speaking of that, we're chatting with Chris Osborne, the spotter for Matt Kenseth and the Dollar General Toyota. Also, as you mentioned, for Daniel Suarez in the Camping World Truck Series, and that was a wild, some might say crazy race, especially at the end as people started pushing and shoving their way toward the front. But I wanted to ask you specifically about Daniel Suarez. A lot of folks believe this is the next guy who's going to break through and start finding himself in victory lane. Working with him, what do you see in that young driver?
Yeah, I see so much potential with Daniel. Jimmy Maycar and I stood and talked about Daniel and had a lengthy conversation yesterday morning at Martinsville, talking about where he came from and the excitement of having him on board at KBM and at JGR and what everyone felt like he could do. And I started working with Daniel from his very first race in the Xfinity Series back in Richmond when he ran I think he ran 2 races in the 14 maybe. I lose track of my years here, but I think it was 14. Anyway, I've been with Daniel since the beginning, and I've done all of his Xfinity and all of his truck stuff other than the non-companion stuff, and Curtis Markham takes care of that. But Daniel has so much potential. The one thing about Daniel is, I talk to him and on a weekly basis and more often than not, multiple times during the course of the race. And after every race, we text back and forth or talk either on Sunday night or first thing on Monday and go over the past weekend's race. And then we start looking towards the next weekend. And the one thing about Daniel is he definitely has the talent. There's no doubt about that to get the job done. But in the very beginning and still up till today, he still has questions on things inside the race car or the Camping World truck as far as car control. With some of these guys breathing the throttle, if they're dragging the brake at certain places and things of that nature. And I know Kyle has been a huge help to Daniel. Daniel has relied on Kyle from the very beginning, and Kyle has stepped up to the plate. And I know Daniel has talked to the other drivers as well, but it seems Kyle is his go-to guy. And I told him, I said, I can tell you and give you tons of advice for things that I see on top of the roof from a spotter standpoint, as to what I see with cars and and where I think what lines are working and where you need to be on the racetrack, and some of your lift points and back to the throttle, and depending on where you are, different scenarios. But as far as inside the car, I told him in the very beginning, I said, you've got at that point in time, Carl wasn't on board, the three of the best Cup drivers in the business right here at JGR. So you need to lean on those guys and talk to them and ask them the questions. I said, because they're not going to come to you and offer the advice. I said, you're going to have to put forth the effort to go and try to pry it out of them. And I said, I'm sure that each and every one of them will help you as much as they possibly can and lead you in the right direction. And Kyle has kind of taken him under his wing, especially since he is in the KBM camp over there driving the Camping World truck. So that's been a huge, huge help to Daniel with things going on, and especially Martinsville. We've seen him run there well the last two races, and a lot of that is just a product of him sitting down with Kyle multiple times and trying to figure out how Kyle drives the place. So I think Daniel has a really bright future in racing, and I think that he'll make it to the Cup level for sure. He's come a long way in a short period of time, and I think he has the talent, the desire, and the desire to do it. It's just a matter of time, and man, that win's just right around the corner. And like I told him, I said, they're not easy to come by in any series for sure. You have to have pretty much that perfect day. And I said, but once you get that first one, I said, the anticipation is just has built up within everybody in the racing industry wanting to see you get that first one. And I said, once you get that first one, it seems like they'll come a little easier. I said, not that they'll come every week, but if you get 1, 2, 3 a year, I said, then that's a pretty good record, especially when you move to the Cup Series.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and with a resource like that, he certainly needs to rely on him. Well, Chris, listen, we appreciate you taking the time. Good to see you back on top of that spotter stand, and we look forward to catching up with you at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me on, and I hope you have a great day.
Yes,
Joey,
sir.
I'll see you Thursday.
See me Thursday. Welcome back, buddy.
There you go.
Okay, thank
Fantastic.
you so much.
Here you go. Chris Osborne, the spotter for Matt Kenseth in the Sprint Cup Series and the Dollar General Toyota, and Daniel Suarez in the Camping World Truck Series. We got to take a time out. A.J. Allmendinger is on the other side. But speaking of that truck race in combination with the Cup race, Kyle Larson ran them both after saying, you know what, I need some more laps at Martinsville. It worked out pretty well for him.
It was a solid weekend for myself also. I was able to do double duty this week, and I definitely think that helped me get my rhythm early in the weekend and just better myself each time I was on the track. So and our car was way better than it has been here in the past, and I felt like I learned a lot throughout that race. I was able to run behind great drivers here, AJ, Jimmy, Kevin, Kurt Kozlowski. There's a lot of people that I could learn off of, and this is in the past has been my worst racetrack on the schedule. So to get a top 3 finish here feels great. Feels like a win, to be honest, and hopefully this is a good momentum shift that we need. We've been struggling all year long so far, and been working hard, but hasn't paid off. So it's nice to, like I said, be on the podium here and go on to Texas, a track where I've ran good in the past at, and hopefully get a solid finish there also.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday. Join the Motor Racing Network every Tuesday evening for NASCAR Live. Eli Gold, along with the cast of MRN personalities, will take you into the sport of NASCAR like you've never heard before.
And the intent was right there. There wasn't no, oh, oops, I bumped into him. This was, look out, here I come.
And what would NASCAR be without the fans?
As a fan, it was like, whoa.
It's NASCAR Live every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Motor Racing Network. The grill is hot and the cooler is cold at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA. Join us each weekend as your host and head chef Rob Tanner serves up the hottest hits and country music. And Steve Post drops by with NASCAR news straight from the sport's top garages and shops. We have 2 hours of country music at the speed of sound, getting you ready for NASCAR racing. Rev up your weekend at America's Tailgate Party, NASCAR USA. The 2016 drag racing season is off and running, and MRN Straight Line is your weekly source for everything NHRA.
Hey, Erica, so you were in a Chevy for a long time, and now all of a sudden in a Dodge.
We've had to build an entire new engine program at our shop.
Join Marty Huff and Doug Herbert every Thursday at noon Eastern on MRN.com, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts and Hercules Tires. It's the Straight Line, only on the Motor Racing Network.
I'm Brad Keselowski, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane. Joey Meyer, the only person I know that talks more than Woody Kane.
Wow. Did you tell him to say that? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about the STP 500 at Martinsville on Sunday. The guy who finished second, we already told you Kyle Busch won. A strong run for A.J. Allmendinger behind the wheel of the number 47 Kroger Butterfinger Coffee Mate Chevrolet SS for JTG Doherty Racing, and he joins us on the guest line now. A.J., goodness, dude, you darn near got that thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fun race. We definitely had a shot at it. We had a long-run car. I was kind of praying for the first time ever that Martinsville would run the last 120 laps green. Obviously, that didn't happen. So had to get aggressive on the restart. And, Kyle was obviously fast the whole race, no matter what situation. But I thought really on the long runs, we might have had the best car. In the short runs, we had to make a couple adjustments at the end there. Randall Burnett did a great job and had a couple of good restarts and at least had a shot at it.
Yeah, you're known for your road course prowess, but you show up at Martinsville and we have to practice, and they only give us a little bit of practice on Friday. Are you a entry guy? Are you a turn in the center guy? Are you a brake guy? Or are you a drive off? What's your priority when you got to Martinsville?
Drive off for sure. I mean, that place, and we saw it yesterday, especially since the track really never rubbered up. It is hard on rear tires, so I mean, you got to have a fine line. If the car doesn't brake well, then that kind of upsets the whole corner to start with. And if it's not turning well, you seem to use more throttle to try to help it turn, and that's how you burn the rear tires off. So there's always a happy medium, but I really try to focus on forward drive. I thought the fall race last year, I had the best short run car I'd ever had, but after 30 laps, I would burn the rear tires off it no matter what I did, and it made for a long race. So really went in there with the mindset to focus on forward drive and do long runs, see what the tires look like, not try to abuse the tires. And that definitely hurt us on the short runs. We didn't quite have the speed. I thought we were, the first 30 laps of a run, I would really try to just hold my pace. I would try to not race anybody really hard. But on the long runs, it definitely made up for it. And then usually those short runs at the end are all based off of kind of how you get through the restart. If you're on the inside lane or if you have a really good restart, you can kind of get out clean. And that's what we did there. And I was driving for everything I had there trying to catch Kyle. I thought with about 4 to go, he went in the corner, and it looked like he got a little wide, and I thought, okay, here I come. And then I went down the next corner, drove it in, and it hit even harder and thought, okay, I just did the same thing he did the previous corner. So it was a lot of fun trying to race him. I joked around, after the race that I passed Jimmy Johnson like 5 times at Martinsville, so that's pretty cool. So all around, it was just a great day.
Absolutely, it was. And I heard you mentioning after the race about all the changes that you guys made at JTG Doherty Racing in the offseason. Tad Geschichter didn't sit still. We had your crew chief, Randall Burnett, on a few weeks ago talking about it. It really seems like things are starting to click for you guys despite all the changes. Are you surprised at how quickly it started to move in the direction you wanted?
Not really. The addition of Randall Burnett and Ernie Cope coming in as competition director to really get the race cars where they needed to be as we loaded them up and brought them to the racetrack. I kind of noticed it right away at the race team during the off season through the winter. We were building really nice race cars. Tad had said it was the first time he'd ever seen in his race shop 5 or 6 brand new cars sitting there ready to go before the season started. So, I was really pleased with where the team was going. Brian Burns, which was my crew chief last year, he kind of went back into the role as race engineer. Tony Palmer, which was my race engineer last year, kind of went into the role as the assistant race engineer, the second engineer in the hauler and at the race shop. And, everybody's really gelling. And that was kind of, I guess, the one question I had going into it. Okay, we got better, we got good people around us. We're building better race cars. But how quick is everybody going to gel? Is Brian and Tony, they've been awesome because in certain situations, we all know it, no matter what role you have in your life as a career, something if you feel like you've been taking a step back, maybe you feel like you've been demoted or something like that, and you can react to that in a bad way. And, it's definitely not demotion. It's just everybody trying to find the right role, and Brian and Tony have stepped up so much, and they're making such a huge difference. So it's just the way we've all gelled. It's been really good. Daytona, we had an okay week. It wasn't a great week. In Atlanta, we had a really fast race car and had some pit road problems, and then we had a steering box issue late in the race. So I thought we had a fast race car there. And then the West Coast Swing, we just had a solid 3 weeks. So going to Martinsville, we always knew that was one of our best tracks. It's been one of my best tracks, and really just put a solid weekend in, good qualifying, good Saturday, and put a good 500 laps in yesterday. And my pit crew, really, the last 2 weeks, they've worked hard to make sure they're on top of their game, and Michael Klein and those guys have really just stepped up. So it's great. We still got a long ways to go, but it was just nice to have a really solid Sunday.
Yeah, we're 6 races in, and every single track we've gone to has been different. We now are going to go to Texas, which will be the second time we've seen a 1.5-mile high-banked, high-speed track. Give us the evaluation of the new low downforce package that we've experienced so far in 2016.
I think it's been really good. A lot of it's based off of what tire Goodyear brings, and I think they've done a great job, I would say, especially at those tracks where they're hard on tires, that the Atlantas, the Fontanas, Martinsville's hard on tires, Texas going this weekend, that's another place that gets hot and slick. So they've really done a good job to bring a tire that's a little soft, that's got some grip in it, and you can go out there and attack it and have some really good speed early on, but you also have to save a little bit. So it puts it a little bit more back in the hands of the drivers of driving a stint during the race of how they want to do it, if they want to be aggressive early on or they need to save a little bit for the end of the run. So it's made it a lot more fun. I think we've had great finishes throughout the course of the 6 races so far. So I think if you ask pretty much any driver, they say this package right now and what we got going on is a lot of fun to race with.
I want to follow up. You're one of the rare open wheel candidates over in the NASCAR series that's been successful. Most of our guys come from dirt and they sling it around, and the rear of the car is never under them. You're driving a car now that has essentially the less amount of downforce than you've ever experienced. Do you enjoy that, and can we go even less?
I definitely enjoy it. Back into the I really had fun kind of that 2010, 2011 kind of era when the cars were kind of transforming back from the COT look and going back to that spoiler and that look, and they were sliding around a lot at that point. And, I felt like I really enjoyed and had fun driving those and would go to a lot of places and have decent success with it. I kind of struggled in 2014 when we went to this package, and especially when we had all that downforce, and it was just all about momentum. I never had driven trucks a lot or Xfinity to where it's a momentum kind of based vehicle to where it's not about getting in the throttle early. It's about how you don't touch the brakes and you just kind of hold partial throttle, and the more momentum you carry, the faster you are. So it took me a while to learn that. So I really like this less downforce package. I think you can go less, but once again, it's all based off of getting the right tire to go with it. Just to go less to say, yeah, we got even less downforce doesn't work if you don't bring the right tire combination to go out there and help that package. And, that's where Goodyear and the teams are working hard together to try to make the best racing for us, for the fans, for everybody watching at home, and so on. So, there's room, but I feel like over the last couple of years, we've almost reacted too quick, say, oh, this package isn't working after 10 races. We got to go to something new. And it just takes a little time to get everything right. And hopefully the fans are enjoying it, because I think us drivers really are.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with 2 photo finishes in the first 6 races along the way. Chatting with A.J. Allmendinger, who drove the number 47 Kroger Butterfinger Coffee Mate Chevrolet SS to a second-place finish at Martinsville. He's up to 12th in the standings right now. And, A.J., we mentioned earlier we had Randall Burnett on a few weeks ago and saw a tweet where he was kind of taunting you about some golf, and he said, oh, no, I can't play with A.J., but he was sure giving you the business that day. I told him he'll be fine as long as he doesn't let you give him any wardrobe advice.
Yeah. He's funny, man. I didn't know much about him. When we were kind of interviewing him, I'd sat down at dinner, and he was one of those, I call him just those racers, those guys that have built race cars, have driven race cars, has been around it his whole life, and got such a diverse background. And, he's a guy that has basically done everything on a cup team except crew chief it. So we've been very fortunate to have him here. And, anybody that's listened to him on the radio over the first 6 races, it doesn't sound like it's his first time ever crew chief. And he's spot on the radio. He tells me what I need to hear. He gives me the good feedback. He tells me when I need to calm down. It's just been a pleasure to work with him. And he's got a passion. I laugh because I feel like, and this will be shocking to you guys, that I'm always the animated one inside the hauler.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Come on.
I know, it's crazy. It's shocking when I tell people this. But he's got a little bit of an edge to him. I've told him the last couple of weeks, I said, it's bad when I'm the calmest guy in the hauler right now. And I like that. I like it about him. I feel like he's got a little chip on his shoulder. I've always had one of mine. This race team has it on theirs because we're a small race team that sometimes, we want to be up front, and I wouldn't say sometimes we don't get the recognition we deserve, because I feel like you always got to earn that, but we have that chip on our shoulder to go out there and beat those big race teams. So he's a lot of fun to work with. We've had a good time so far, and I really see it just getting better and better. We're going to have those ups and downs. Texas, for instance, isn't a racetrack that's always been my best. The guys have really worked hard to make sure this car is ready. They Randall and Ernie and the guys at the shop are pumped up about the Texas car, but we're going to have our ups and downs. That's what a small team trying to get better is all about. But, these last few weeks, the Fontana, having a top 10 run, top 10 car all day, Martinsville, having just such a great race car, shows that when we get our stuff right and we're spot on and we don't make any mistakes, we can run up front. And that's what we're going to try to do every week and just take what we can get. Being 12th in points after, I think, Atlanta, we were 36th. So we've made a huge run, and we just got to say every weekend we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. Just get what we can get.
Man, that's fantastic to see. We're running a little bit over here, but I got to ask you one quick thing. I saw we mentioned all the sponsors you guys had yesterday, Kroger, Butterfinger, Coffee Mate, all the ones that Tad worked so hard to get. You've just added the original Louisiana hot sauce, but I saw a clip on Twitter where you're running around the shop for Scott Products, hitting people in the face with pies. What's up with that?
Well, I after we won at Watkins Glen, my jackman, Michael Klein, the pit crew coach, he hit me in the face with a pie just for fun. And I thought it was time to get some guys back. So I show my appreciation at the shop for all their hard work. They get pie in their face.
That's fantastic. Man, congratulations on a real strong run yesterday. Look forward to catching up with you at Texas and continued success.
Thanks, guys.
There you go, A.J. Allmendinger. You got to check that out. It's on Twitter. It's for Scott Products. The hashtag is That's How I Roll, because after he hits him in the face with a pie, he gives him some paper towels to clean up with.
Yeah, I'd be running is what I'd be doing.
Yeah, right. You know if he's coming up with a pie, something bad's about to happen.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a break here on Motorsports Monday. When we come back, we'll be talking on track, off track, where Joey and I talk about some things we think are going right in the sport and some things that maybe aren't going quite so well. It's next. Stick around.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt, or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcasts elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
One final lap in the Daytona 500. Joey Logano has the point. Junior crosses over.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Hey, this is Joey Logano. You're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane. How does Joey have a co-host? They talk so much.
Wow. See, there's your payback right there. You got Brad to
That's
bust
nice.
me, and now Joey gives it to you. Joey on Joey crime right
That's
there.
nice. That's
Hey, listen, folks, we want to thank you for watching Motorsports Monday, and we need your help with something. In exchange, we're going to give you a chance to win your own Google Chromecast. So in an effort to give you the kind of web programming that you want, we're asking if you'll take a quick online survey at mylistenerstudy.com. Check it out, mylistenerstudy.com. Survey is completely anonymous, and it'll help us give you more of what you like. Don't forget to enter for the Google Chromecast. That's mylistenerstudy.com. We really appreciate your feedback there, so help us out with that survey. All right,
They're all going to say they just want more of us. That's what they're going to say.
They're going to tell me to figure out what show I'm on. That's what they're going to do.
Should be a one big checkbox. Want more Woody and Joey. Just big
yes.
check.
There's only one box
That's
on
it,
there. You remember
yes.
those like you used to get in school? Yes, no, maybe?
It's just
right.
be yes.
Right. There's only one box on there. Okay. Let's talk on track, off track right now, where we talk about some things that are going well and maybe not so well in the world of motorsport. So what do you got for on track this week?
We've had a lot of change in the NASCAR industry last 5 years, last 2 years, last 10 years, however far you want to go back. But one of the constants that's been in this industry is Martinsville Speedway. Broke ground 1947. We've been racing there since 1948. The track has kept up with changes. Used to have 2 pit roads, used to be all asphalt, all things that they changed over the number of years. They've run modifieds, they've run late models, they've run Busch Cars, Xfinity Cars series, they've run the Sprint Cup, Winston Cup series. Since 1948, that track has been entertaining fans. The race shape of the track, which some tracks have changed. Atlanta Motor Speedway is one of them. There's rumors about Phoenix Speedway changing the configuration of the track. Martinsville Speedway has never changed. It's been paperclip shaped. The only thing they've done is they've modified the corners with concrete several years back to give because the cars were tearing up the asphalt. But Martinsville Speedway has been an amazing facility, putting on great action. We saw another 2 races this week since 1948. No other track can say that.
Speaking of a little bit of Virginia heritage, by the way, the Wood Brothers made their return to Martinsville this past weekend, and some of our guys, Steve Post, Robbie Mays, one of our producers here on the program, doing all the graphics that you see on the screen, went up to Stewart, Virginia, to the museum there with the Wood Brothers and talked with them. That video is at MRN.com right now. You'll want to check that out. It's really cool to hear some of the history and heritage there. All right, my on track, speaking of some things going right, all the new faces we saw up front. I say new, they're guys that have been around for a while, but typically you see the guys you mentioned at one point, there were like 5 or 6 guys and 10 championships running up front. In this race, A.J. Allmendinger, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, Brian Vickers, Paul Menard, all running up front in the points. We got A.J. Allmendinger up there, Ryan Blaney. We've got Chase Elliott up there, Ricky Stenhouse having a better season. All these new faces up front, I think, is attributable, at least in part, to what we've seen with this new downforce package. It's kind of leveled the playing field, giving guys a reset button, and some of them are taking advantage of it right now. And I think we're far from determining who the favorites are going to be this season for a championship.
No, there are teams, Roush Fenway and RCR, who have lacked performance in the last couple of years that have definitely turned up the wick a little bit on the other teams. They have found some speed. Paul Menard started that race in the top 10, drove up past the leader, and was able to lead laps at Martinsville for one of the very few times. Those guys had a strong performance and able to bring Dillon back into the top 5 for a strong finish. Slugger Labby, his crew chief. So those guys have found speed. RCR is also an affiliate of the 47. So we've seen the strength of those teams. Absolutely. The new faces are definitely good, refreshing seeing. We don't have to see the Kyle Bushes ruining the series.
Oh, here he goes. Yeah, we did see a bunch of that.
It's good to see these new fresh faces, like you said, because it's just opening up more opportunities. The more we bring new people in, new teams or teams that have been around but better performing teams into the mix, it just helps the whole industry.
I mean, not that the Globetrotters aren't fantastic, but do you really want to see them thrash the Washington Generals every time? No, you don't. That's the answer.
That would never work, would it?
No, it never would.
They wouldn't last very long if they did that.
You think? They've only been around for decades. Okay, let's talk a little off track now. Some things that maybe we think aren't going quite so well. What do you got?
Martinsville Speedway, 1947. They broke ground. Wait.
That was on.
The truck race at Martinsville Speedway. Gentlemen, who allows you to drive like idiots? For some reason, whenever we go truck racing at Martinsville, you guys lose and unscrew your heads, and somehow or another, somebody tells you it's okay. Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch were able to drive that truck race with the same level of respect that we saw in the Sprint Cup race on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Learn from that. Go back and watch, because the truck race at Martinsville has now become a slugfest that's nasty. It's hitting below the belt nasty. It's not a matter of a good fight, side-by-side door racing. It's, I don't care about you. I don't care about your truck. And you know what? I don't care about my truck either, so I'm just going to beat the living crap out of it.
You can't put this all on the truck guys. Let's remember what happened before this race. The last time we were at Martinsville, you had the whole Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano deal.
But that's a rare instance. We have good racing at Martinsville in the Cup Series. It's not sloppy. That was a sloppy incident in the Cup Series last year, but that's a rarity. Very rare do we see the amount of sloppiness in one race in one series that we do with the truck race at Martinsville. Every Martinsville, we run twice a year. I walk up. Everybody on the spotter stand goes, "Yeah, this race is going to just," and it runs good for 150, maybe 175.
Right, I was going to say,
laps.
right at the end, it got nuts.
Exactly right, because everybody just gets that wick turned up. They unscrew their helmets and they put them back in the back, and their
Time
heads
to
are
go.
going. Right, and they're going to drive through everybody. There's a way to run this race and be successful. If you go back and you watch Kyle Larson's, and not everybody was bad, but there's a group of younger drivers there that when they show up to Martinsville, they completely throw every way of driving normal out. And it's a very sloppy race, and that's the part I don't like.
Speaking of that, after that truck race, Kyle Busch did win. John Hunter Nemechek was involved with some different guys and some of that thumping and bumping along the way. He is the point leader now in the Camping World Truck Series, and here's what he had to say after the race.
Yeah, it was kind of an up and down day. We started 8th and had to work our way to the front, just be patient. Right there at the end, we got caught with a little bit of strategy. We had a lot older tires and all those guys behind us trying to hold them off. So luckily we salvaged the second place. It sucks. I wanted the clock this year, but we still had the fall race to do that.
There you go, John Hunter Nemechek talking about how important tires were at Martinsville. We heard A.J. Allmendinger talking about burning the left rear tire off. We heard Chris Osborne earlier talking about how important tires were. You don't think of Martinsville as being all that abrasive like you would, say, the old Darlington or in Atlanta even, or what Auto Club Speedway has turned into now.
It's amazing how fast we take a 3,400-pound race car and go from essentially 60, 70, 80 miles an hour up to over 120 miles an hour down the straightaway. And the only way you can do that is to put an 800 horsepower through the rack tires and being able to launch that car. But how about John Hunter Nemechek, our point leader?
Yeah.
No sponsor. Sponsor this kid. He's winning races. He's leading the points. Get your name on the side. My name here. It's good.
The trucks don't come back until Kansas in early May, but right now that kid is really getting it done, and it's amazing to see that truck show up jet black week after week after week.
Yep, you have an off track. I do.
I do have an off track.
Yep.
It's about how perception can sometimes become reality. We saw a whole bunch of tweets and social media commentary yesterday about how the race wasn't all that great at Martinsville. I mean, you had a really good finish, a guy who doesn't often finish up front, and A.J. Allmendinger right there, all the new faces that we mentioned, guys finishing up front that we haven't normally seen consistently in the top 10. We've seen 2 photo finishes so far this season with races in the first 6 events, 2 photo finishes we've had, and the perception is, the racing wasn't all that great. I think the racing is substantially better. I think it's backed up by the evidence in terms of what we've seen. You might think that if a guy dominates and leads a bunch of laps that it's not all that compelling, but what we're seeing that we haven't seen in the past is passing and real contentious battles back in the field for guys trying to get their way up to the front. You and I were talking this past weekend about an article that Tom Jensen over at Fox Sports wrote where he talked with Richard Petty. You know, he's won a couple of races along the way and knows a thing or two about racing. He won 15 times at Martinsville, right? Back in 1970, when everybody thinks that everybody finished 40 wide, upside down, and on fire at the stripe every single week, which is, I don't know if you know this, is not true, by the way. Back in that race, Richard Petty won by leading 480 of the 500 laps. You know how many cars finished that race?
Yep.
10 cars finished that race. If that happened today and somebody led 480 of the 500 laps and 10 cars finished, people would lose their minds. Twitter would melt.
And they shut the racetrack down.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one I can read better is 1951 at the same facility. 4 cars finished the race.
Yeah.
In 1951. And that's the difference in what Tom Jensen was talking about. Our perception of how great racing was back in the day. You know, Earnhardt and Cale Yarborough never had to put up with that. Yeah, bull. It's a bunch of junk. And we all had certain races that were good. We saw basketball games this weekend with
so it won by 44 points. Are you kidding me?
And that's a Final Four game. You know what I mean?
Where everybody's supposed to be really, really good.
Exactly. And just one of those games that it did happen. So I completely agree with you. We need to be more realistic about our expectations when we start comparing against the past of what we watched.
Right. We have a tendency to romanticize what happened in the past. And I think right now, you heard A.J. Allmendinger talking about it. With this low downforce package combined with these softer tires, we've really got something that's moving in the right direction. And I think the teams are going to start getting that back. As Paul Wolf told us a couple of weeks ago, they'll find a way to get some of that downforce back, and I expect we'll see more of it come off.
We have a really good stretch of races here with Texas and Bristol and Kansas coming up. Amongst some others, some just really good facilities with the new lower downforce package. We're going to see a big change.
All right, one more break here on Motorsports Monday. We'll look ahead to Texas Motor Speedway coming up this weekend.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
Does your heart race for great taste? For a limited time, get 20% off Creekstone Farms premium St. Louis-style all-natural Duroc pork ribs. Choose between 4 or 8 fall-off-the-bone rack of ribs and get up to $30 in savings. Just place your order at creekstonefarms.com before April 30th using the promo code MRN20RIBS. That's MRN20RIBS. Enjoy the juiciest premium quality beef and pork products. Visit creekstonefarms.com today.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. 1 per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
Experience kind of outweighs youth.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
Kyle Busch driving for his life right now.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
Our lives are so much different than what people may think they are.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
Hi, this is Ryan Newman. You're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
There you go, Ryan Newman welcoming us back here on Motorsports Monday. We asked you earlier to give us some Twitter questions if you want to ask anything in the world of sports, and you've got one right there. What do you got?
Yeah, Patty Coy from @PJ Coy asks, what was miscalculated on the 2 for a pit road penalty? So cars
it was your fault, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Blame it on the spotter for sure. Sprint Cup cars do not have speedometers. They take the gear ratios and mechanically and ratios and calculate what a RPM, revolutions per minute, the engine has to turn to give us 35 miles an hour down pit road.
Wait, it's math?
It's all math. So you have to it's algebra.
Oh, boy.
It was miscalculated. It was a simple mistake. So when Brad came down pit road and was running his light fixtures, it gives us green lights and red lights and the number of red lights. It was simply the wrong calculation. We ran the wrong pit road speed. got busted early in the race. We were able to come back and finish solidly in the top 5. But it was a simple math error that caused that pit road speeding penalty.
All right, we've got another one now. You can use, you see the information there. Use that hashtag AskMRN. Mine's at WY Kane. His is at 2Spotter or at MRN Radio. Briar Starr, a regular viewer of the show, wants to know why is it that some fans were still upset about Kyle winning yesterday, even though it was in the Cup Series. I know Briar's a big wrestling fan, and wrestling doesn't work unless there are heroes and villains. Remember when Jeff Gordon was coming up racing against Dale Earnhardt all the time? He got booed. When Jimmy Johnson was in the midst of winning 6 championships, he got booed. I think it doesn't work unless you have heroes and villains, and in spite of everything that Kyle's done, he's still going to get that.
Yeah, Brian answered the question himself by mentioning Kyle Busch.
Right, there it is. Hey, by the way, he wants this die cast. We borrowed that from Eric Morris, one of our producers at Sprint Vision. It's, as you can see, with the wing on the back. It's an older car, but it was the one he ran at Darlington promoting Indiana Jones movie. So, no, you can't have it. I have to give it back to Eric. It's not mine. Texas, we got coming up this weekend quickly.
Man, I love it. It's going to be a really good race with that low downforce. Goodyear's brought a really good tire. I really look forward to Texas. From Brad Keselowski and Paul Wolfsfan, we finished top 5. We had a little bit of an incident 2 years ago, as you may have remembered.
You think? Yeah, I do remember
incident
that.
with Jeff going for a win. Very competitive racetrack. Brad's in the Xfinity car. I can't wait. We leave Thursday morning.
How bumpy is that track, and how rough is it now?
It's not too bad. The bumps are caused by the tunnels in both corners, which we see a lot of that. But the straightaways in the backstretch aren't too bad.
Yeah, not too bad along the way as well. Keep in mind now, immediately following Motorsports Monday, on Monday, if you're watching this one live, we've got a replay of the STP 500 coming up from Martinsville. We'll do that every time we have at MRN the race on the weekend. You can check it out there. Also, we want to thank all of our guests, Crazy Spotter, Chris Osborne, and AJ Allmendinger as well. I'm Woody. He's Joey. We'll see you right back here next Monday, every Monday at lunchtime for MRN Motorsports Monday.
You've been listening to MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse and Hercules Tires. Tune in again next Monday at noon for all the latest news, results, and interviews from NASCAR on MotorRacingNetwork.com. MRN Motorsports Monday is also available on demand at the MotorRacingNetwork.com Media Center, or download it from iTunes or Stitcher. MRN Motorsports Monday is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.